news comes first. This is ABC-7 Extra.
Good evening, I'm Saul Saenz, and this is ABC-7 Extra. Thank you for inviting us into your home this Sunday evening. Jaime Esparza has been El Paso's district attorney for almost 30 years. It should be noted the DA's office has no term limits. Esparza announced he will not be seeking another term. El Pasoans heard from Esparza Thursday when he handed up yet another murder indictment for the man accused of opening fire in the August 3rd Cielo Vista Walmart mass shooting. Tonight, we talked to the two candidates vying to become El Paso's next district attorney. District Attorney Esparza was first elected to office 28 years ago. During his tenure, Esparza tried several high-profile murder cases. One of those was overturned in 2018. 10 months after that happened, Esparza announced his retirement. When District Attorney Jaime Esparza first tried Daniel Villegas for the murder of two men in 1993, Villegas was convicted and sentenced to life. Villegas served 25 years in prison before that conviction was overturned on appeal. Convinced there was new and compelling evidence against Villegas, Esparza went after Villegas a third time. Only this time, Villegas was acquitted.
We, the jury, find the defendant Daniel Villegas not guilty of
Shortly after that acquittal, Esparza appeared on ABC-7 Extra.
I don't believe that the El Paso Police Department coerced the confession from Mr. Villegas. And what you need to know is that David, his cousin, came forward, Mr. Villegas confessed, and then Mr. Villegas told Mr. Gomez. So this jury, this 2018 jury, didn't hear that confession.
A little more than 9 months after Villegas was acquitted, Esparza announced his retirement July 2019. Just 1 month after that, on August 3rd, El Pasoans faced the darkest day in recent history when a lone gunman entered the Cielo Vista Walmart and opened fire, killing 23, wounding 26 people.
which tender a plea of guilty or not guilty? Not guilty.
Esparza found himself once again facing a high-profile case indicting Patrick Crucius for the death of 23 men and women. However, Esparza will not be in office long enough to see the trial through. That responsibility will fall solely on the shoulders of Esparza's successor. I called District Attorney Esparza's office and he was unavailable for an interview. Joining us now are the two candidates running to replace Jaime Esparza as the next District Attorney. First, Assistant District Attorney James Montoya. Montoya was one of the prosecutors in the third Villegas trial. And Attorney Ivan Rosales. Rosales ran and came close to unseating Esparza in 2016. Thank you so much for taking time to talk to us. I will begin with the very first question. How will you be dealing or how will you be handling this case against Patrick Crucius? I'll start with you, Ms. Ivan Rosales.
Thank you for having us this evening, Saul. This is going to be a very important case. Quite honestly, I believe the federal government will be taking over this case first. In the event that they allow the state to handle the case first, and of course, this is all going to be dependent on the discussions that are had between the district court judge and the federal court judge to see what is the most appropriate way to handle the matter. But if the federal government would allow the state to proceed first, then we need to make sure that we have a strong team of attorneys handling this matter. And I see my role as being the lead prosecutor in this case, where I will be giving direction and guidance and overseeing a team of at least 4 attorneys handling this trial, just because of the volumes of evidence and the multitude of witnesses that will be involved in order to seek justice for the families.
Mr. Montoya?
So it's going to take a huge collaboration to work together. If I do win this election, I'm going to reach out to Mr. Esparza immediately and see if he'd be willing to open up those files so that we can start reviewing those cases and be ready. Who knows when this jury trial is going to happen because of this pandemic? Everything's been put aside. The fact that a new indictment came down means that we'll almost certainly have to start from scratch because the defendant is entitled to his arraignment hearings on those charges. So it seems like we've had a few setbacks because of this pandemic, but we will be ready to prosecute. I started my career as a prosecutor. for several years.
Yeah, Ms. Rosales, let's give Mr. Montoya an opportunity. How will you be handling the Crucius case?
Sure. Thank you, Saul. We're going to handle it the way that we've been handling it. I disagree with the assessment that the reindictment is somehow a setback. I'm glad that we reindicted it to include all of the victims, both those that were killed and those that were injured by the defendant. We reindict cases all the time. That's not going to change anything. And in fact, I know it might seem kind of counterintuitive, but the Corona situation has allowed the team that's working on the case right now to focus on that case. We obviously haven't had any trials since March. And so since that time, we've been able to continue working, continue reviewing the materials. It's afforded his defense attorneys a chance to review and work on the materials. So I actually think this break has been somewhat beneficial. I want to make sure that we get this case to trial as quickly as possible. I certainly intend to be trying that case. I went to the scene. I was there. I saw the 17 that were there at the Walmart. And I can tell you, it's the worst crime that's ever happened here. And we're going to make sure that we take care of it. And I've talked to enough voters here in El Paso that I think he could get a fair trial here. I'm going to fight to keep this trial here in El Paso. And I think he belongs on Texas death row. And so that's why that's my plan. Certainly we'll have to coordinate with the federal government. But if I'm elected, I want this case going to trial as quickly as possible. Because that's what this community deserves. Okay, Mr. Montoya and Ms. Rosales, we're going to take a really quick break. You're watching ABC-7 Extra. When we come back, police force and officer-involved shootings in El Paso were once investigated by the district attorney's office. One city representative wants to know why that is no longer the case. Do candidates want that to change? We'll ask. You're watching ABC-7 Extra, where news comes first.
We're all doing our part by staying home, and that can mean more energy use. Here's a few simple tips to help you be energy-wise and save money. Keep thermostats at 78 or higher during the day, and unplug unnecessary appliances. Together, we will power through. Visit us for more tips.
For every moment of your life, there's a Ford SUV that was built for you. Upgrade to a new Ford SUV at your Texas Ford dealer today. With amazing deals on Expedition, Edge, EcoSport, and the all-new Explorer and Escape. See your Texas Ford dealer or shop online and use our pickup and delivery services. Ford SUVs, built for Texas, built for you. Now, for a limited time, get 0 for 72 months on our full lineup of Ford SUVs. Hurry in to your Texas Ford dealer.
For those who rely on you, you can rely on TFCU because our convenience services keep you in control of your finances. You can manage your account 24/7 with the TFCU mobile app. Make quick withdrawals and deposits at our surcharge-free citywide ATMs and complete all your in-branch needs with our clean and convenient drive-thrus. This is how we provide safety and accessibility. We're here to help you. Visit us online or call us for more information on convenience services and financial assistance.
Because your home is your castle, you shouldn't let just anyone paint it. That's why El Paso Paint Kings follows a 7-step program to protect and beautify your home. By carefully inspecting it from the foundation to the roof, we'll know exactly what needs to be done. And right now, take advantage of our spring special, starting as low as $29.99. You'll appreciate how we pay attention to all the details, and we use only the highest quality of paint and materials, and we always make sure we leave the job site clean. When experience matters, call El Paso Paint Kings, where we treat your home like our home. Call now.
We're all doing our part by staying home, and that can mean more energy use. Here's a few simple tips to help you be energy-wise and save money. Close drapes and blinds to block the heat, and circulate cool air with fans. Together, we will power through. Visit us for more tips.
Welcome back to ABC-7 Extra. Calls for police reform are sweeping the nation in the wake of people dying while in police custody. District 8 City Representative Cecilia Sarraga recently asked Police Chief Greg Allen why the District Attorney's Office no longer investigates such cases in El Paso.
Tell me when the DA stopped going out to investigate.
Well, I made
officer-involved shootings. I'm sorry.
I made that decision when we had indictment of an officer that had been involved in 2 shootings, and then the investigation that we had that we found problematic was the one that was exonerated by the district attorney's office.
But you don't know what year that was?
It was around 2011, 2010, somewhere in there.
Okay. So I'm sorry, I was under the impression that the DA went out to investigate those.
No, ma'am. They get the case presented to them when the Rangers and our Crimes Against Persons unit, which is the homicide unit, completes their investigation.
Now, I also want to welcome back to ABC-7 Xtra our guests, both running to become the next district attorney, Assistant District Attorney James Montoya and Attorney Yvonne Rosales. It should be noted, current DA Jaime Esparza is not endorsing either candidate. I will start again with you, Ms. Rosales. Were you aware of this fact that district attorneys no longer investigate or go out to the scene based on what Chief Greg Allen just said right now?
No, I wasn't aware of that. I've been away from the DA's office for several years, so I didn't know what the internal policies were with respect to that. I think it's good. I mean, if you don't have DAs going out to every crime scene, I think you need to maintain the impartiality. I think it preserves the integrity of the investigation of the case. So you have an independent agency conducting these investigations. They hand over the material to the DA's office, whereupon we can review it and make the determination whether criminal charges need to be brought forward and presented to the grand jury. I think it maintains a level of integrity that there is no undue influence being provided to the district attorney.
So you will keep it that way? Is that correct, Mr. Rosales? You would keep it that way?
I'm sorry?
You would keep it that way, the way that Chief Allen is just mentioned, is that they really don't want the DAs out there until the case is handed to them?
I need to go over these protocols with Chief Allen and talk to the Texas Rangers. But in my opinion, after taking everything into consideration, I think it would be best to have the DA just strictly make a determination based on the evidence presented, whether something should be proceeding to a grand jury or not. We don't want any influence. We don't want any biases to come into play. So if the attorney stays out of the investigation, but we review it upon completion of the investigation, we can make a correct and proper analysis and then disclose that information to the community. I think the community will feel that if the DA does not participate in the investigation, but rather solely makes a determination based on the information they have at hand and present that to the grand jury, that in itself will preserve the integrity of the investigation and the integrity of whatever the grand jury decides to do, whether they indict it or they no-bill it.
Mr. Montoya, based on what you said earlier in our first segment, you're leaning in the opposite. Would it be safe to assume that you're leaning in the opposite direction and you would rather go out to the scene and investigate?
Yes, especially I think in officer-involved shooting. For right now, see, in normal homicide cases, we get notified when they happen. I get called from the detectives, hey, a murder has happened here in El Paso. And right away, we're able to start coordinating. And if they have questions or concerns or thoughts, they run them by us if they have questions. And I'm the one getting calls at 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. And I think that the earlier that prosecutors are involved in the investigation, the more thorough, the more transparent that investigation is. You know, that's how other jurisdictions throughout this country do it. In Texas, that's how the federal government does it. You know, U.S. attorneys are involved with the FBI in investigations from day one. And, you know, I understand why people have concerns. You know, people don't feel, you know, when an agency investigates itself, I understand why people have concerns about the transparency. It just doesn't sit right. And I think one of the advantages to having the district attorney's office present at the scene is that it provides a degree of transparency. It provides a separate entity. You know, we work with the police, but we're also independent agencies. We're independent departments. And so, you know, one of the ideas between having prosecutors and district attorney personnel at the scene, particularly of officer-involved shootings, was that if a witness was feeling uncomfortable speaking to law enforcement, they would have a chance to talk to someone from the district attorney's office, someone, like I said, a separate agency, an independent investigator.
So, Mr.
And so
Montoya, you don't agree with Chief Allen's assessment that the DA should not be out at the scene covering such cases like these, and would rather, of course, Chief Allen just said, would rather wait until the Texas Rangers turn it over to the district attorney's office?
Right. I agree with the prior policy. The policy prior to 2011 was that we were going out to the scenes. I know that Chief Allen had a disagreement about how a particular case was handled back then. You know, I've never had a conversation with Chief Allen myself, but certainly if I'm elected, I'd want to talk to him to see, hey, can we get back to us being at the scenes? Because I think that would, like I said, provide a degree of transparency and confidence in the investigation.
Got it. Okay, you're watching ABC-7 Extra. Still ahead, I'll ask the candidates what changes they would make to the DA's office if elected. We'll be right back.
ABC-7 has always been the Borderlands news and information innovator, the first El Paso station with a website, the area's first morning newscast, in-depth issues discussions on ABC-7 Extra, and now El Paso native Saul Saenz joins Eric Elkin and Stephanie Valle on ABC-7 at 10. Extra context, extra depth, extra perspective. Eric, Stephanie, and Saul, only on ABC-7 at 10. We know your time is valuable. That's why ABC-7 at 10 brings you a fresh, in-depth look at the day's top stories.
Extra breaking down the Duranguito fight by the numbers.
Eric Elkin, Stephanie Valle, and Saul Saenz dig deeper to bring you extra perspective, extra experience, extra resources.
Now is the time to get tested to get a complete picture.
What's really going on?
And joining us now for Extra Perspective is Dr. Ogachika Lozi.
Find out on ABC-7 at 10. An awful lot can change overnight.
Breaking news from the ABC-7 Alert Center this morning.
Right now, what you need to know.
ABC-7's Good Morning El Paso knows you need to get up to speed fast.
ABC-7's crews has been live on scene since 4:30 this morning at the crash in downtown El Paso.
The ABC-7 Alert Center is Good Morning El Paso's tool for the latest updates to keep your family safe.
We have seen several crashes right here in this area around that curve just in the last year.
Only on ABC-7's Good Morning El Paso. When you need the latest news, turn to the ABC-7 Alert Center.
Breaking news out of Las Cruces. Police are searching for a shooter considered armed and dangerous.
With new details breaking minute by minute, the ABC-7 Alert Center has real-time updates to keep you informed and your family safe.
Texas Governor Greg Abbott stopped further reopening phases as the COVID-19 outbreak continues.
Across the nation and in Texas, numbers are showing a rapid increase of the virus in young people.
Only on ABC-7, where news comes first.
Welcome back to ABC-7 Extra. Also, welcome back to District Attorney candidates, Assistant District Attorney James Montoya and Attorney Ivan Rosales. I will begin with you this time, Mr. Montoya. What changes would you make to the District Attorney's office? Of course, we just prefaced the fact that the District Attorney, Jaime Esparza, has been on there for more than 28 years. So what changes would you make?
Sure. So the top two changes, number one, I want to continue to reduce the number of misdemeanor marijuana cases that we file every year. Last year, our office filed 11,000 misdemeanor charges, 11,000, and that includes DWIs, family violence, criminal trespass, shoplifting, and marijuana cases. And of that 11,000, about 2,200 were misdemeanor marijuana cases, almost 20%. To me, that's too much. I can tell you I've had enough discussions and conversations with citizens here in El Paso that my impression is that they do not want us wasting taxpayer resources prosecuting misdemeanor amounts of marijuana. Mr. Esparza has implemented a first chance program where someone, if it's their first time getting in trouble with the law, we're able to offer them what's called pre-arrest diversion. And what that means is they don't get arrested. They sign a contract with the police officer at the scene. The officer confiscates the marijuana, and then the person agrees within 5 days to report to the courthouse. They pay a small administrative fee. They do some community service hours, and the case never is on their record. They're never arrested. They're never sent to jail. Right now, like I said, that's limited to people who it's their first time in trouble with the law. I would like to expand that to anyone caught with misdemeanor amounts of marijuana.
Which would be what?
Anything under 4 ounces is a misdemeanor amount of marijuana. And ultimately, you know, we're going to have to work with law enforcement to implement this because it's still in their discretion. The officers will retain the ability to make the arrest, but I want to work with them so that we're getting away from making arrests, making, you know, jailing people for these tiny amounts that taxpayers are having to pay for.
I'll ask Ms. Rosales the very same question. What changes would you make if elected?
I have 3 main points. So first is implementing policies and procedures that will make the processing of these cases more efficient and effective. There's already going to be a backlog because of this pandemic. So by implementing these new policies and procedures, the DAs will have more discretion to move these cases along and make their independent evaluations of cases rather than these cookie cutter policies that are currently put into place. Second is immediately implementing the program of the wrongful conviction and public integrity unit so that specialized DAs can be in charge of handling cases wherein evidence is brought to the DA's attention where there may have been a wrongful conviction. And we also want to have special prosecutors handling cases of police misconduct or any kind of public corruption cases. And the third implementation of change is I would like to implement the first mental health unit within the DA's office. Public Defender's Office has this unit, the DA's office doesn't. I'd like to make sure that we oversee cases in a specialized manner when we're dealing with offenders, nonviolent offenders who are suffering from PTSD or some kind of mental health issue. We have a lot of veterans in this community, and some of them come into the criminal justice system, but a lot of that is based and stems from PTSD. So rather than criminalizing them for nonviolent offenses, I'd rather have programs implemented so that we can track their cases, their criminal cases, but while we're doing that, we're making sure that they're getting the services that are necessary to make sure that we don't have recidivism along this line.
Okay.
I'd like to bring down a recidivism rate when it comes to cases involving mental health issues.
Let me get Mr. Montoya's assessment of those changes that Ms. Rosales wants to make. Your assessment, Mr. Montoya?
Sure. I've been a big fan of a public integrity unit. I think that one of the critiques that the office has had or a critique of Mr. Esparza over the years has been, I don't know, a lack of transparency or not as aggressive on cases involving, you know, other elected officials or, you know, the school districts. I know a lot of the corruption involving the school districts is handled by the federal government. I would like to make a public integrity unit to ensure that we are handling those cases as quickly and transparently and efficiently as possible. You know, I know there was several years ago, there was a lot of concern about the open meetings violation by the El Paso City Council. You know, I want to make sure that we're developing prosecutors and investigators to handle cases of official misconduct by public servants, whether that's other elected officials, school district employees, police officers. You know, these are the kinds of lawyers that I would want to go to the scene of officer-involved shootings. If, you know, it all ties in.
Yeah.
And I think that I've always been a big fan of that. That's something that I certainly want to implement is a dedicated public integrity unit.
We're running out of time, so I will ask for brevity. Ms. Rosales, let's talk about transparency. Would you be accessible to the press if elected district attorney? And again, we're running out of time, so if you can make it brief, please.
Absolutely. That's one of the platforms I've been running on as well. And I've been saying that since day one. We create a website. We have perhaps quarterly meetings and always accessible to the press because the public are my employers. If elected, I'm asking this community to put me in a job and I need to respect that and answer their questions whenever they have them. So yes, I'm fully accessible to the press and the public.
Thank you. Mr. Montoya?
Yes, big believer of the First Amendment. You know, I've been calling voters, knocking on their doors myself. I believe in making myself personally accessible and transparent. And, you know, anyone that's covered any of my trials, they know I'm always available for questions afterwards. And if I'm fortunate enough to win, we're going to keep it that way.
Mr. Montoya, Ms. Rosales, I will hold you to that promise if elected district attorney. Thank you so much for taking time to talk to us. And thank you for joining us. I'm Saul Sainz, and this has been ABC 7 Extra. Good night y buenas noches.